My name is Asher Vale. I was 25 when the laughter at our Sunday table turned into my final family memory. Who needs this broken mobile? Sold it for $700, Mom said proudly, tapping the screen of her new tablet. Dad smirked. Easy money. She only used it for Facebook anyway. The table erupted in laughter, spoons clinking, gravy steaming, my brother joking, "Guess you finally contributed to dinner, Ash." I smiled thinly, though every pulse in my wrist ticked against the weight of my badge hidden beneath my sleeve, Federal Cybercrime Division. The smell of roasted chicken mixed with my heartbeat. My phone, the one they'd sold, wasn't just a phone. It was evidence. Inside, a restricted access data key linked to an ongoing federal operation codenamed Orpheus. $52 million in encrypted offshore assets, currently under federal protection, were tethered to that single device. Without it, the entire chain of custody collapsed, along with me. Mom kept counting her cash, fanning it playfully. "See? Not everything you buy is useless, Asher." She said it with that honeyed tone she used when she wanted to sound right. My brother laughed again, sliding another piece of bread across his plate. I stared at the faint reflection of my badge in the spoon beside me, the old silver one Mom gave me as a kid. The same spoon she'd used to serve everyone but me first. Outside, a van engine idled. My watch buzzed twice. That was the signal. Through the dining room window, I saw 3 unmarked SUVs pull up in formation, headlights dimmed. My superior's voice echoed in my earpiece. "Unit 7, we're green." Mom turned just as the front door shook with the first knock. "What on earth is that?" Dad muttered. I stood up, my chair scraping against the tile. "That," I said softly, "is the sound of federal property entering your house." The laughter finally stopped. The front door swung open before anyone could answer. 2 agents in tactical vests stepped in, their voices calm but sharp. "Federal Cybercrime Unit. No sudden moves, please." Mom gasped. Dad rose halfway from his chair, trembling. "Asher, what is this?" I didn't look at them. I turned to Agent Connors and nodded. He handed me a sealed folder. "Chain of evidence, Orpheus operation." "Where's the device?" I asked evenly. Mom blinked at me, still clutching the 700 in her hand. "Asher, we sold it. Some guy from Marketplace came by this morning. He seemed polite." I cut her off. "Polite doesn't mean clean. That guy is currently being tracked by Interpol for laundering encrypted access keys tied to classified financial streams." My brother pushed back his chair. "You're overreacting. It's just a phone." "Not anymore." I held up a photo from the file. It was grainy, a black van parked 2 blocks away, the buyer's face blurred. That man wasn't buying a phone. He was buying a federal vault. Mom's voice cracked. "How were we supposed to know?" "You weren't supposed to touch it," I said quietly. The silence was thick enough to hear my heart slow. Dad's hand trembled as he reached for the salt shaker, the same reflex he had when lying. "You're telling me your little work phone is worth $50 million? 52, I corrected. And it's not mine. It belongs to the Department of Treasury's Cyber Evidence Wing." Agent Connors whispered, "Signal trace active. Buyers moving eastbound." I turned to my family, the people who used to post my childhood photos online without asking, the ones who'd called my career a waste of Wi-Fi. "You didn't just sell my phone," I said. "You sold federal evidence. That's a felony." Mom shook her head, pale. "You're not really turning us in, are you?" I met her eyes, the same eyes that once looked right past me. "I don't have a choice." Outside, the sirens wailed closer. Inside, my family finally went silent. By the time they brought my family into the living room, the house felt smaller, like it was folding inward under its own guilt. The agents moved methodically. Photos, receipts, serial numbers, every last scrap of information. Dad tried to talk, but his words kept breaking against the hum of scanners. "Can someone explain why the government's in my home?" he demanded, voice shaking. Agent Connors didn't look up. "You might want to ask your son, sir." Mom turned to me like she didn't recognize me. "Asher, tell them this is all a mistake." Her tone, desperate, sugary, reminded me of every apology she'd ever faked. I walked toward the shelf near the dining table. My old trophies, dusted just enough to look cared for, stood next to a framed photo of my brother's graduation, the frame I'd bought but never got thanked for. I picked up the picture and stared at it. "You know what's funny? I trusted you people so much that I stored the only unencrypted backup key here. I thought, maybe family would keep it safe." My brother scoffed. "Who hides government secrets in a phone anyway? That's on you, man." He didn't realize how close he was to the truth. That phone wasn't just a vault, it was a dead man's switch. The moment it connected to a non-federal network, the system started uploading everything to an open relay. And now, it was live. I grabbed the house phone, dialed command. This is Agent Vale. Device breach confirmed. Initiate failsafe alpha. Static. Then, copy. You have 10 minutes before full public exposure. Mom's face drained of color. Public, what does that mean? It means, I said, pacing, that every account connected to the phone's cloud will be mirrored to the federal transparency feed. Every text, every photo, every transaction, including yours. My brother's laughter faltered. Dad finally whispered, "You're bluffing?" But then his phone pinged, loud, sharp. The screen lit up with a federal seal and the words, "Data sync in progress, do not power off." No one moved. And for the first time I was the quiet one. The room filled with a sick blue glow as every phone began to vibrate. Mom's, Dad's, even the tablet she'd bought with the cash. Each device flashed the same alert, federal mirror mode enabled. Mom stumbled backward. "Asher, please, whatever this is, stop it." I didn't. I just stood there, watching as years of digital lives unfolded across the screens. Bank transfers, emails, private messages. The truth bleeding out in pixels. Agent Connor spoke quietly into his mic. Subject family data being mirrored. Estimated exposure, 7 terabytes. Dad lunged toward him. "You can't do this. Those are personal." "Federal property was compromised," Connors replied. "You authorized access by selling it." I didn't need to say anything. I could see it dawning on them. The vacations they'd funded, the money they'd claimed came from investments, the secret accounts tied to my late grandfather's trust. My phone, the one they sold, had captured it all. Mom's voice cracked raw. "You knew about this, and you didn't tell us?" "I tried," I said quietly. "You called me paranoid. Remember?" My brother slammed his fist on the table. "So what now, genius? You going to ruin us to prove a point?" I turned toward him. "No. You ruined yourselves the moment you decided my work was worthless." Outside, reporters were already gathering, drawn by the federal vehicles and flashing lights. The word raid travels faster than truth. Agent Connors tapped my shoulder. "Command needs you on the drive. You're still primary custodian." I nodded, then glanced back at the dining table, gravy drying on plates, laughter fossilized in the air. "Keep them here," I told the agents. "They'll need to answer for more than a phone." Mom's eyes followed me as I walked out the door, whispering something I almost didn't hear. "We were just trying to help you grow up." I stopped for half a breath. Then I said without turning around, "Congratulations. You finally did." The van door slammed shut behind me, and the sound echoed like an ending I didn't want but deserved. By nightfall, our street was a carnival of sirens, news vans, and whispers. Neighbors stood in their yards pretending not to stare, phones half raised like vultures filming a slow-motion tragedy. I sat inside the federal van, headset on, eyes glued to the cascading code on my laptop screen. "Mirror transfer at 94%, Connors said. "Is the buyer still in motion?" He nodded grimly. "Interpol tagged him at the border. He's using the data fragment to bargain for immunity." "You sure your family didn't duplicate anything?" I hesitated, not because I didn't know but because I did. When I was 19, Dad once told me, "Never trust anyone who treats information like oxygen." He said it as a joke, but he was the one who taught me to encrypt. Now, his own greed had turned that lesson into prophecy. Through the tinted window, I saw Mom's silhouette standing on the porch, wrapped in her shawl. She looked smaller, like time had folded her into herself. A flash of guilt hit me, sharp but brief. I reminded myself of what I'd seen in those mirrored files. Offshore accounts labeled under fake charities, luxury purchases masked as family gifts, even a small transfer to a political aid. This wasn't a family mistake. It was a network. Connors handed me a tablet. "Command wants your statement for the record." I took it, thumb hovering over the screen. The words came automatically. "Special Agent Asher Vale confirms breach initiated by unauthorized sale of federal device. Complicit parties identified as primary family members. Motive, financial gain. Recommended action, prosecution under Section 112 of the Federal Data Security Act." When I finished typing, the cursor blinked like a heartbeat, steady, waiting. Connors asked softly, "You sure you're okay turning them in?" I met his gaze. They turned themselves in the day they put a price tag on trust. As the transfer bar hit 100%, the system beeped. All files recovered. Public access locked. Justice was intact. My family less so. Outside, Mom's porch light flickered once, then went dark. The next morning my name was trending. Federal agent's family sells classified device, $52 million breach averted. The article showed a photo of me stepping out of the van, expression unreadable, badge half visible. Behind me, blurred in the background, my family's house. I didn't read the comments. I just kept scrolling until I saw one line that made my chest tighten. How can you arrest your own mother? I hadn't. Not yet. They'd been detained overnight for questioning, standard protocol. But when I arrived at the field office that morning, I saw Mom sitting in an interview room, wrapped in a gray blanket, eyes swollen. Dad sat across from her, jaw clenched, refusing to look at me. My brother stared at the table, tapping his fingers in a rhythm I remembered from childhood, a nervous habit he'd had since stealing my allowance and waiting to be caught. Agent Connors approached me. They'll likely be charged with obstruction and unauthorized handling of classified property. But Command wants to know your recommendation. My recommendation. I looked through the glass at the people who raised me, the same ones who mocked every career move I made, who called me government janitor when I joined the bureau, who never once asked what I actually did. Mom noticed me watching. Her lips moved silently. Please. Connors lowered his voice. You don't have to decide today. I already have, I said. I stepped into the room. The air smelled like stale coffee and guilt. Dad spoke first. You happy now, Agent Vale? I didn't flinch. No. But I'm finished pretending you didn't do this. Mom started to cry, reaching for my hand. Asher, we were just trying to make ends meet. I pulled my hand back. You sold the one thing that made me trust you. Silence. Then the hum of the fluorescent light above us, flickering, uneven, filled the room. That sound became the rhythm of my choice. I'll recommend leniency, I said. But only if you tell the truth on record. Her tears stopped. About what? I leaned in. About who told you to sell it. The room went still. Dad's eyes darted to Mom. Mom looked down at her trembling hands. My brother stared straight ahead, tapping that same nervous beat, faster now, like a countdown. Who told you to sell it? I repeated. Mom swallowed hard. Asher, it wasn't my idea. Then whose? For a second no one breathed. Then my brother exhaled, sharp and loud. You really want to know? Fine. It was me. He leaned back, smirking, though his voice cracked. I found the listing drafts in your folder, thought it was junk. Mom just helped post it. I didn't think anyone would actually buy it. Dad muttered. You told me it was Asher's old phone, not some? It was his old phone, my brother shot back. How was I supposed to know the guy who bought it was some international, whatever? Connors entered quietly, recording everything. So you admit to posting the sale? My brother nodded. Yeah. But I didn't do anything illegal. I didn't know. Ignorance. The family trademark. Mom whispered, we just needed money for your father's surgery deposit. We thought. You thought selling my property would fix everything? I snapped. You didn't even ask. Dad finally looked at me, eyes glassy. We didn't think you'd care. You never visit. You never call. That stung more than I expected. Because in a way they were right. I had distanced myself, buried in work, chasing justice and strangers' crimes while ignoring my own house rotting from within. But guilt doesn't erase betrayal. Connors turned off the recorder. Command says the buyer's been detained in Berlin. Files are safe. The court's willing to downgrade charges if there's full cooperation. Mom reached for my sleeve again. Please, help your brother. He didn't mean it. I stared at her, the same woman who once sold my guitar to pay the electricity bill, the same woman who'd laughed when my first paycheck bounced. I'll tell the court he didn't mean to, I said slowly. But intent doesn't change consequence. The words hung heavy between us, echoing louder than any siren outside. And in that silence my brother finally stopped tapping. The trial took 6 months. Long enough for the headlines to fade, but not long enough for me to forget the sound of my mother's crying echoing in that courthouse hallway. The world moved on. The internet found new villains. But every night, when the office lights dimmed and the city hummed beneath my window, I still heard that same sentence, we didn't think you'd care. Mom and Dad took plea deals, probation and restitution. My brother wasn't so lucky. He'd falsified a few documents to hide the sale trail, and that turned the case. 18 months, minimum security. The day they took him in, he didn't look at me once. The house was sold. The family chat went silent. The spoon, the one Mom used to serve everyone but me first, now sat on my desk, tarnished, bent slightly at the handle. It became my reminder that loyalty, like metal, bends before it breaks. One night, Connor stopped by my apartment. "You did the right thing, Vale," he said, handing me a final report stamped case closed. "Feels more like a funeral," I replied. He hesitated. "Sometimes justice looks like loss." After he left, I scrolled through my contacts. One unread voicemail blinked at the top. "Mom, 2:14 a.m. My thumb hovered before I hit play. I don't expect forgiveness. I just hope, when you look at that spoon, you remember the dinners before all this. Before badges. Before money. I'm sorry." The message ended with the faint clink of a dish, the same sound that once meant home. Outside, the city lights flickered against my window, mirroring that final pulse of the recording. I placed the spoon back down, letting it catch the glow just right. I whispered, "I remember." But remembering wasn't the same as returning. Tomorrow I'd start on a new case, new data, new lies, someone else's betrayal. Yet somewhere deep down, a quiet part of me hoped that when my family's probation ended, they'd still sit at a table again, even if my chair stayed empty. Because sometimes, absence is the cleanest kind of revenge.